Hello, and welcome to this writing equations of lines given 2 points practice set. Please like this video if you find it helpful and subscribe to the channel for more math help and drop a comment and ask me a question. Without further ado, let's get to the practice work. Pause the video to work these problems on your own and come back to check your work. Okay, so at the outset, you might find, well, like 4 problems that are all exactly the same. And yes, and one of the things that we need to do with math is practice it enough so that it sticks. It's one thing to understand the content, and it's another thing for it to understand it and to really get it to stick. And for that, you just need to do enough problems of the same type so that you don't forget what you did like a week, 2 weeks, 2 months down the line. So 4 problems isn't too many. Your teacher could very well assign you more. So to start off, we're going to be using the formula. So I would advocate that you write down the formula. Again, is it monotonous? Absolutely, yes it is. But it also will help that formula stick. If you write that formula down 100, 200 times over the course of Algebra 1, you are going to remember that formula so much better, so much longer, and there's just no way around it. It does not take a long time to write it down. Just write it down. Now I'm going to go ahead and I guess we'll assign this to be 0.1 and this to be 0.2, but you might have done it differently. That makes this x1, y1, and this x2, y2. So plugging that in, y2 is -1 minus -4. And then we have x2, which is 4 minus -8. And notice the minus signs here. So we got quite a few minus signs. You've got a minus sign in the formula. That's what this is. Okay, I'll even highlight it. If I could get the highlighter to turn on. There we go. So that minus sign is that one right there. That minus sign is that one right there. And then you have a second minus sign that is coming in with the numbers. And so that minus sign is there, and that one is right there. So you should see all of the minus signs there, and it is a little bit of a negative sign soup, but we'll clean it up very quickly. So I don't like subtracting a negative. That is the same as adding. And so I'm going to go ahead and change that. And then -1 plus 4 is 3, and 4 plus 8 is 12. And 3/12 simplifies to 1/4. So the slope of this line is 1/4. Now, even if you picked your points in the other order, you should also have gotten the slope of 1/4. Now, for the plugging it in, I think I'm going to pick 0.2 because the numbers are a little bit smaller and because one of them is not negative. So that would be -1 is equal to 1/4 times 4 plus b. 1/4 of 4 is 1. And then we'll subtract 1 from both sides. -1 minus 1, or okay. So a lot of my students would say -1 minus 1, and I would get 0. Okay, remember that subtracting is adding a negative, so that's really -1 plus -1, and then we're a lot more likely to say -2. 1 minus 1 is 0, and so b must be equal to -2. And then we will just go ahead and plug in the m and the b, so 1/4 x minus 2. And there's the equation of the line. All right, not too many steps there. Didn't take me too long. We can time it on the next one. All right, next one. So we'll time it. The clock said 4 minutes, 18 seconds when I started this. So I don't know, we'll do it differently this time. We'll say this is 0.2 and this is 0.1, just to change it up. Writing down the formula. Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we're going to do a straight plug-in. So we have, this is x2, y2, and this is x1, y1. So we have 13 minus -8 over 6 minus -1. And once again, just to be really clear, you've got the minus signs in the formula, and then you have the minus signs that were attached to the numbers coming in. That's a super common place to make mistakes. So this becomes 13 plus 8 over 6 plus 7, or 6 plus 1, which is 7. There we go. So what is that? That is 21 over 7, and 21 divided by 7 is 3. So the slope of that line is 3. And then for plugging them in, I'm going to pick the 613 because it's got positive numbers in it, and I would just rather avoid the negatives. So y is 13, the slope is 3, then we have x is 6. 3 times 6 is 18. And then we'll go ahead and subtract 18 from both sides. 13 minus 18 is -5. 18 minus 18 is 0 right there. And so b is -5. And we'll plug that in. So y equals 3x minus 5. Boxing it in. And I finished that in about 6:28. So that took me about 2 minutes, 10 seconds. And that was with some explaining. So that was with me like kind of stopping and highlighting and copying all the formulas. So 2 minutes, 10 seconds. It would probably take you a little bit longer than that. It might take you 4 minutes or 5 minutes. But then a 4 or 5 problem homework assignment at 5 minutes a problem, we're looking at ballpark 25 minutes to do the work, and that is very, very reasonable, like 25 minutes or so. I usually tell my students if it starts taking them more than 40 minutes, they need to come talk to me. All right. Slope formula. If I can write it down, so can you. All right, and we'll do 0.1 and 0.2. So this is x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. So plugging them in, we have 3 minus 4 over 4 minus 2. 3 minus 4 is -1. 4 minus 2 is 2. So the slope is -1/2. Now, if you pick your points the other way, you might be looking at your sheet and you've got 1 over -2. That is also fine, okay? So a negative divided by a positive gives you a negative. A positive divided by a negative gives you a negative. So both of those would be equal to like -0.5 if you were to put it in a calculator, okay? So that would be totally fine. You can move the negative out front. You can move it numerator, wherever you want to put it. Now, I think on this one, this is pretty much equal in terms of what looks easy. So I guess I'll go with 0.1. So 4 is equal to -1/2 times 2 plus b. -1/2 times 2, I'm off to the side there. Multiply straight across, that's -2 over 2 or -1. And then we add 1 to both sides. So 5 is equal to b. And so we have y is equal to -1/2 x plus 5. Right. And looking at the clock, it's just a little bit shy of 9 minutes. So that's about the same amount of time to do that. And that is with me doing all of the steps and talking it through out loud. Our last one of this type. So this one, looking at it, like I wrote this one to come out like yuckier. So let's switch it up one more time. We'll have 0.2 and 0.1. So this is x2, y2, and this is x1, y1. Formula for slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Plugging them in, we have 4 minus 1 over 1 minus -1. 4 minus 1 is 3. 1 minus -1 is the same as 1 plus 1. And so that is 3/2. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. All right. When it comes to plugging it in, I am picking 0.2 up there because I'm going to try to avoid the negatives. So 4 is equal to 3/2 times 1 plus b. Well, the only thing I really love about this is that 3/2 times 1 is just 3/2. Now, the algebra stays the same. The only thing that's like not great about this is the arithmetic. The arithmetic now involves some fractions. We're all like really excited about that. But we are going to subtract 3/2 from both sides. So we'll have 4 minus 3/2 is equal to b. Now at this point, if you have access to a calculator that does fractions, you can go ahead and dump that in as is, and it'll do it for you. If you don't have access to a calculator that does fractions, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. In order to subtract fractions, you need to have a common denominator. We have a denominator of 2, and so what I'll do with the 4 is I multiply by a version of 1. 2 over 2 is equal to 1, but has a denominator of 2. And so now we would have 4 times 2 is 8 over 2 times 1. And you can pause for a second and just like think, is 8 over 2, is that the same thing as 4? Yes. Okay. And just give me a moment to think, like 8 divided by 2. Yep, that's 4. And what we have now is a common denominator. So 8/2 minus 3/2 is 5/2. So our b value is 5/2. And then plugging that in, we get y is equal to 3/2 x plus 5/2. And that will springboard us into a couple lessons from now on, like how would you write that without the fractions if you didn't really want to have the fractions in there. But that is for a future lesson, not like a way future lesson, just future one. Okay, last one. This one I really wanted you to use the different tools. So it like, should we be able to find the equation of a line doing the process we just did 4 times? Yes. But sometimes we blank out, and it's important not to forget that we have other tools in our toolbox. So use a graph to find the equation of a line. So the directions are asking you actually get this from the graph and then verify your answer algebraically. So the points in question are 4, 3, which is right there, and 8, 0, which is right there. And you could like sketch the line through that. Right now, I'm apparently very challenged at doing that, so I'll see if I can do a better one, but you just kind of all right. And it looks like my y-intercept is going to be somewhere near the 8. I don't trust that line. That line is a super dodgy line, but it's going to be somewhere up there. If somebody said, well, the y-intercept is -4, I'd say, no, it's not a -4. All right. So looking at the rise over the run, we're going to find the rise over the run here by just counting it. Okay, so my rise is 1, 2, 3 down. So 3 down would be -3. And then it is 1, 2, 3, 4 across. So it appears like the slope is -3/4. Now, I want to be able to go and find the y-intercept, which I think is up there somewhere. So what I'm going to do is basically repeat this process, but we're going to count like back 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll go up 3, 1, 2. Okay, and that looks like the y-intercept is a 6, is what it appears to be, which means that my line is bent, but I would have told you my line was bent So it looks like the y-intercept is 6. And so I believe the equation for this line is y equals negative 3/4 x plus 6. So we do not want to forget that this is a tool that we can use. Now let's go verify that algebraically. So now we're going to go repeat the process that we've been doing, and we're going to see how they line up. All right, so I'm going to make this point 1, so we'll make this x1, y1, and this not y2. Don't do that. Try that again. And this is x2, y2. So y2 is 0 minus 3 over 8 minus 4. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. 8 minus 4 is 4. And what you see is like that gives us the same as counting it. Okay, and the only reason like we don't count it all the time is because one, like graphs can take a long time to put together, and also some of them there's no guarantee that the numbers are going to be nice. Like you might have numbers in the tens of thousands or with decimals and stuff like that. So we want the formula, but like it is the same process. All right, now we need to pick a value. Sorry, my thumb just gave me a stabbing pain. I think this is a bit of a toss-up. I like the 0, but I'm not too thrilled with the 8. So I think I'm going to go with the 0.34 on that. So y is 3. The slope is negative 3/4. The x value is 4. Looking at this, now I kind of went over this like on the previous slide. This would be negative 12 over 4. Because you're multiplying by like 4 over 1, and you multiply straight across. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3, and we would add 3 to both sides. 3 plus 3 is 6. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0, giving me b is equal to 6. And then plugging that in, negative 3/4 x plus 6. And of course, the goal there was for you to just really see that the graph and that algebraic process do land you in the same place. You will be a much stronger math student if you can do this more than one way. You can use the algebra to help you out with the graph. You can use the graph to help you out with the algebra. You can have the flexibility of choosing the method that works best for you when you're not under the constraints of directions, like when the directions tell you to do it a certain way. All right, so don't forget, if you found this video helpful, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more math help, and drop a comment or a question for me below. I will see you in the next video.